Hey, according to what I'm seeing in front of me, we're live now. This is no small feat this morning. There have been glitches aplenty.
I can
And
hear the printers go dirt. It's got one page left to print.
yeah, well, not only the printer is going very slowly and is taking like over 5 minutes to print out Teresa's notes. Also, YouTube has uh, told me that connecting failed. Oh, I don't know. 100 times.
Or if it's because it's got a quote from Trump, and maybe it's just like, I'm not printing this shit.
Maybe so. I don't know. Anyway, let's just say today has been technically fraught, and thereby I haven't done my hair. I haven't done nothing.
Your hair's lovely. It's so lovely. It's so witchy.
Hi, Kitty. Hi, Kitty. It's so nice that you are here. It's nice
Happy
that
Involk.
everyone has joined us, regardless of the technical issues we've been having. Hope your day is going much smoother. And my goodness. It's been quite some time since it's taken over a half hour to set things up before.
I've got notes. Okay.
Teresa's got notes. She's going to talk to you for a minute. I'm going to slip away and
Shall
do
I
that
launch
Tarot
them?
thing that I usually do well before now because it took so long to set up the dang computer. Why don't you go ahead and launch? You
Okay.
can actually,
This is now Bridge to a Better
put
World.
yourself in the
Is the
center.
name. I will. Is the name of this program. That's Ani Haynes. She'll be right back. And I'm going to do a few headlines here. I'll just get right in the middle. And thanks for tuning in. Let's see who's there. There's Jabara. There's Kitty. Okay. North Korea will send hundreds of North Korean soldiers and police personnel, and they're going to send them to Ukraine. The report that this comes from is cited by I-24 News. They say Pyongyang told companies to complete the selection of staff by the end of January. That is, companies that are North Korean companies that are operating in Russia. According to the source, the personnel are likely to be deployed to Ukraine by mid-February or March. The first batch of personnel is likely to consist of 300 to 500 men. It was not specified what kind of works the North Koreans would perform in Ukraine. However, the report said it was unlikely they would fight as mercenaries. You can do that as you as you like. Closer to home, a Portland woman has won damages for getting racist treatment at a local gas station. According to surveillance footage, Ms. Wakefield took matters to the manager inside the station store who had another employee go pump her gas for her. This happened after she was denied service. When she got a chance to ask the pump jack Powers what his attitude was about, he said with a laugh, it was because she was black. Quoting the Oregonian, it was humiliating. I felt like a slave without chains, Wakefield said in an interview after a Monday's verdict. The bottom line is I can't take my skin off and lay it down on the couch. I'm going to be who I am. Court records obtained by the Oregonian and Oregon Live show that Wakefield called a corporate hotline that day, but the company didn't preserve the audio and summarized it in a way that minimized the racist encounter, according to Portland attorney Greg Kafuri, who represented Wakefield in court. And speaking for myself, when you've got Kafuri representing you, the other side's going to jump. All that happened to Powers was a citation for violating the company's first come, first served policy, not being a literal racist. Jackson's gas pumping company claimed they had zero tolerance for discrimination policy, yet failed to reprimand Powers for violating company code. He was fired later anyway for being on his phone at work. Now he can go be a racist employee somewhere else. So most of that text, as I was saying, was from The Root. And I'm going to think twice before I go into Jackson's. And speaking as a trans woman, that sort of treatment's pretty darn familiar. Oh, it must have happened for some other reason. Anything but admit what's going on. How infuriating. How fascist. Anyway, speaking of the March of Fascism, a Nazi child education project on Telegram has popped up, and it already has 2,400 members, to quote Vice. Since the group began in October 21, it has openly embraced Nazi ideology and promoted white supremacy. while proudly discouraging parents from letting their white children play with or have any contact with people of any other race. Admins and members use racist, homophobic, and anti-Semitic slurs without shame and quote Hitler and other Nazi leaders daily in a channel open to the public. What's even more disturbing, however, is that the couple who run the channel are not only teaching parents how to indoctrinate their children into this fascist ideology, they're also encouraging them to meet up in real life and join even more radical groups, which could further reinforce children's belief and potentially push them towards violent action, end quote. Aaron in the Morn reported on Substack that both Republican presidential candidates attacked transgender people on the same day this week. Quoting DeSantis' press conference, mainly focused on higher education, he spoke against critical race theory and gender ideology in Florida liberal arts colleges and adjusting college curriculums to exclude inclusive educational topics. He was asked about gender-affirming care for trans youth at the end of his speech and launched into a series of anti-trans policies and false statements about the care. DeSantis declared that doctors prescribing puberty blockers and hormone therapy would lose their licenses. He touted his ban on gender-affirming care for trans youth and blamed being transgender on other things going on that just require therapy and would naturally resolve. I'm just going to scoot over to this side here. Can you get into your chair?
I can all the way down.
Okay.
And then we spin it around. Whee!
Okay, DeSantis closed it off by claiming that people are hacking off body parts. From Healthline.
Is that like what they do in tonsillitis or tonsillectomies as well? You hack off body parts.
Yeah, hacking them right off.
What about like appendectomies? Do you hack off a body part? Hack
you're
out
getting
a body
close
part.
to introducing rationality. We're talking about fascism here.
Well, as somebody who's worked in an abortion clinic and has heard surgical procedures described in various heinous ways, think about your average appendectomy. I'm just going to say.
She used to have to
violent.
She used to have to check for bombs at the abortion clinic here in Portland.
That was my morning job.
Yeah.
Bomb checker, minimum wage.
It's time to check for bombs. From Healthline.com, a new law in Utah will ban transgender youth from receiving gender-affirming care. This is the first state law of this nature. The bill, which was signed by Utah's Governor Spencer Cox on Saturday, is the latest law to be enacted in a wave of gender-affirming restrictions being introduced across the country. Alabama, Arkansas, Arizona, and Tennessee have similarly passed laws restricting youth's access to gender-affirming health care. More states, including South Carolina, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Mississippi, are looking to introduce similar bills. Multiple national health organizations, including the American Medical Association Trusted Source, American Academy of Pediatrics, and American Psychiatric Association, have spoken out against restrictions on transgender medical care because science, because compassion, because they're not fascists. So I would like to launch into my general comments here.
Launch away.
Here I go. 3, 2, 1.
Excuse me. Pardon me. No, carry on.
Okay. The inflationary crisis is an attack on the world's workers. It's an attack on you. And it's being led by Jerome Powell, the chairman of the damnable Federal Reserve. It is a repeat of the Volcker shock of 1979 and is an angry and sadistic effort by the billionaire class to beat back the first stirrings of worker solidarity by making mass poverty even worse. Goods, and I say that because they speak amongst themselves, they don't hide it very well, and it's clear that they are angry, and this is exactly why inflation is happening. It is fiat inflation. Goods that you purchased for $100 just in January of 21 went up to $113.46 by December of 22. So that's a 2-year, less than 2-year increase of 13% inflation. You hear about 18, but if you add it to the 5% of the year before, here we are. Your income declined, therefore, by that amount in reverse. And that was very much the intention when Kroger, Aldi, Amazon, Walmart, and a handful of other parasites used their oligopolic power to raise prices purely by fiat. There was no supply crisis driving that act. That was a lie, and it is now proven by their soaring profits seen on their tax returns. The same goes for big oil, which feasted on the increasing misery of the American workers' forced commute. Life expectancy is plummeting in the USA, and it's quite profitable. The COVID crisis, which we are now expected to accept as normal or endemic, as the Biden administration says, is wiping out more than the equivalent of a 9/11 attack every week.
It continues on as the third largest killer in the country after heart disease and cancer.
Yeah. And
but just get used to it, because it's just going to be here, and you don't really need to take any special precautions or anything. Just wash your hands.
Yes, and I hope
for an airborne virus.
Hope
it's
our
cool.
sarcasm saves some lives here. But those are our counselors, our elderly by and large, and their absence will translate to medium-term profits for the health denial insurance industry. This year, the cyclical overturning of sunken warm water in the world's oceans, known as INSO or El Nino, will kill more millions. That's like millions, only with a bit of
I was going to say, will kill what? I thought you were. I thought you were going for mammalians, which I was like, what the heck is that?
When I first got up this morning, I was like, hey, you're here for some food cake, cat? Jesus. Anyway, I feel like I should do tongue exercises. Up, 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 up.
So Teresa's a little snoozy. Yeah. She woke me up super late, and then YouTube tried not to work.
Yeah,
it's a good morning. It's a good morning.
It's an ADD morning. So this overturning of the warm water, frankly, will kill millions of people, disproportionately elderly, further brightening such profits, reducing the strain on pension payouts to the delight of Wall Street billionaires. Russian oligarchs, those that have not experienced a hotel window Icarus trip, will profit as those heat domes reduce Arctic ice to allow the oil tanker Northwest Passage. And big investors can scarcely mop their drool as the retreating Greenland ice reveals undiscovered mineral deposits. What I'm saying here is there's no reason for our masters to give a damn about global warming. When the weather gets extreme, they have the best hideouts. That's where they'll go, and the rest of us can die. Fascism is marching forward since the Trump administration, as millions of soft-brained reactionaries gleefully identify with the politics of hatred and resentment. The targets have been so far Muslim, Black, Latinx, and GLBTQ Americans. This broad civil disruption has had the enthusiastic, if largely clandestine, support of police forces in the USA. We are in a continuing crisis as the police, acting in their role as the occupying army of fascism, continue to stomp, abuse, intimidate, attack, imprison, and kill people for the crime of being Black in America. They have been called out for being the ideological and historic extension of slave catcher patrols, and the end result is that they have made war on us, and they are winning. We are at the point that, in an echo of events in Germany in the 30s, entire school libraries are stripped of books in fear of imprisonment for rejected ideas. Those rejected ideas including the idea that Black people are humans and equal to everyone else, and have history of resistance. As Trump moves forward in his bid for a second term,
and also have a history of contributions, also have a legacy of heroic people fighting for their freedom, for the freedom of all, and pro-revolutionary stance. There's a lot of queer history and a lot of African American queer history, all of these things that are being targeted and wiped from shelves.
And all of that will get you arrested in Florida if you put it on the school library.
I know I'm interrupting you.
Oh, no, that's great.
But allow me to interrupt
you. Interrupt some more.
Two things have been kind of blowing my mind. One was there's a video clip of a school library, and I'm thinking it was Florida. Forgive me. Oops. The place has gone straight from my head as I started to talk about it. But the shelves are empty. There are no books in the library because the staff took everything out because they want to review them book by book before they put them back in, because they don't want to be criminally liable. So that, to me, I mean, that's fascism. So fascism. When you have, and the hypocrisy of the radical right, who have been yelling about woke cancel culture, wherein right-wing pundits who want to strip us of our rights, or folks that have been found to have done heinous acts, they might get some online guff, right? There might be people milling about calling for a boycott. People might roast them on Twitter. And this is cancel culture, woke cancel culture. They're coming for, who knows what they're going to cancel next. The same people are forcing librarians to remove all the books from the libraries because they're afraid of arrest, because of government censorship. Let us not be confused, right? Woke cancel culture, a bunch of people on the internet saying this seems like it's anti-human, this seems racist, this person's been abusive, this we should not buy their products, watch their art, stuff. Compared and contrasted to we are the government and we are criminalizing speech around Black history and around LGBTQ acceptance. Uh, and these things are now going to be prosecutable as indoctrinating our youth into some sort of harmful mindset. I mean, please, the irony and the hypocrisy have reached lethal levels. So that's what I had to say about that. I'll
Right
just
on. Well,
come back here to my seat and
I agree
keep
so much.
drinking my
And the
coffee.
point I'm trying to make here is that we truly are in the initial stages of a fascist white backlash. It's extremely dangerous. It is openly intended to start a civil war. We were at the point in an echo of events in Germany in the 30s. Entire school libraries are. I'm going to skip that sentence. You just covered that.
Because I just did that one.
And
Sorry.
although I've described a clear governmental breach of the constitutional right to free speech in those libraries, no federal action is happening nor being contemplated, and that absence is also significant. As Trump moves forward in his bid for a second term, he has decided to focus on transgender Americans. I want to take the unusual step of reading verbatim several sentences recently uttered and broadcast by the criminal Trump. I don't mean they just caught him mumbling this. This is something that he read and was actually written by someone else. I'm doing this because nothing else will communicate the direct violent intention of this man who so often encourages and directs violence, often with thinly veiled code, for example, referring to Second Amendment rights. I'm reading this because my life is at risk from this fascist onslaught, and Ani's is. We found a burned container of gasoline in our yard last month, a clumsy and failed attempt at a Molotov cocktail that was evidently hurled at our home sometime in the last summer, and I realized it is a miracle it did not start a fire. I did not call the police because the police are our enemies and certainly would not have helped us. I can't emphasize the danger more. Here are the words of this man who speaks to his millions of fanatic supporters with the weight of his personal history as an actual former president of the United States of America. Quote, "The left-wing gender insanity being pushed on our children is an act of child abuse. Very simple. Here's my plan to stop the chemical, physical, and emotional mutilation of our youth. On day one, I will revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender-affirming care. Ridiculous. A process that involves giving kids puberty blockers, mutating their physical appearance, and ultimately performing surgery on minor children. Can you believe this? I will sign a new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age. I will then ask Congress to permanently stop federal taxpayer dollars from being used to promote or pay for these procedures and pass a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. It'll go very quickly." Trump also said, "I will declare that any hospital or healthcare provider that participates in the chemical or physical mutilation of minor youth will no longer meet federal health and safety standards for Medicaid and Medicare and will be terminated from the program immediately. Furthermore, I will support the creation of a private right of action for victims to sue doctors who have unforgivably performed these procedures on minor children. The Department of Justice will investigate big pharma and big hospital networks to determine whether they have deliberately covered up horrific long-term side effects of sex transitions in order to get rich at the expense of vulnerable patients, in this case, very vulnerable." Trump also said, "We will also investigate whether big pharma or others have illegally marketed hormones and puberty blockers, which are in no way licensed or approved for this use. My Department of Education will inform states and school districts that if any teacher or school official suggests to a child that they could be trapped in the wrong body, they will be faced with severe consequences, including potential civil rights violations for sex discrimination," end quote. As Harrison Ford says in, I think it's the first Star Wars, it's worse.
Yeah, well, how do you know Trump is full of shit? It keeps falling from his mouth when his lips move. Um, those words, they're really frightening, right? And it's anti-science, which is really on brand for the Republicans at this time in history. It goes, it flies in the face of medical science. It flies in the face of psychology. It flies in the face of lived experience. And so, but when does that stop the Republicans? Um, it's terrifying, frankly, and really, we must come together and stop this onslaught of. Here, you can just hand that to me. It's fine. We're cool. Teresa's unsure of what to do with this glass of water that is condensing on my very nice desk. Um, thank you, dear. Anyways, it's terrifying, and we have to come together and we have to stop this march of who's going to outdo whom when it comes to anti-science, anti-human, oppressive bigotry, right? Who's going to outdo whom? It's a race to the bottom between T. Rump and DeSantis, and it's really who loses? The rest of us, right?
I see that Jabara points out the rich aren't affected by the inflation. That's very true. They keep their money in a basket of currencies. When one pops up with inflation, then another will counter that, or they have it in things such as stocks.
Well, also, I'm sorry, but also it's been noted. Derivative.
Derivatives. Yeah.
Go ahead, get that last word.
I had to. It's just like building up pressure.
But also, it's been noted that the whole idea behind raising the interest rates was to cut spending and encourage saving. Noted that the average American doesn't really have a lot to save right now because of the rapid inflation and how wages have not kept up in any kind of way. A one-bedroom apartment is now more expensive than a monthly's minimum wage. um, there is no savings that people should be encouraged to do. People are spending down to their last nickel and going into debt to just try to keep their basic needs met.
They know they're lying.
And so, yeah, this whole interest rate stuff is not helping the economy. Doesn't do what it was quote intended to do. Not sure if it ever really did that,
Sadism.
but at this point, it is absolutely pure sadism.
And it's stumble. Social scientists have determined in case after case, for example, when unions present a contract that would produce greater profits for an employer, the employer most often will reject that contract because part of the payoff of being a capitalist boss isn't just the money. It's the sadism. It's the ability to push people around. And that's important. And that is true at the very top with, as I said, in 79 Volcker and now with Powell. And with these people at the Fed, they are there to protect not just the profits, but the emotional health of if you could call it health, the emotional steadiness of a class of parasites. They need to get their yah-yahs by pushing us down. And they lie about it. They stab us and then they say that it's good for us. They know it's not good for us. They talk about it in devious ways, in roundabout ways, but they intend to crush us, and that's what they're doing with this inflation.
You will be crushed, and you will like it too. All right. Do you have anything else?
Nope, I'm all ranted out.
Then
Thanks
allow
for indulging
me
folks.
to move on to the tarot section of our program. We have just come through Imbolc. The moon continues to wax, moving on towards a full moon.
I'll make us rise a bit. There we go.
You have power. So we are, excuse me, here heading into spring. And as Teresa was talking moments ago, I'm looking out the window and I'm noticing our little maple tree in our front yard has new shoots, little tiny leaves that are emerging just on time, right? That here we are, just past Imbolc, as the first the first noticeable signs of spring are springing. Um, it stays, it's light until just after 5 now. Feels kind of good. It's a hope, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. That renewal is always there and always happening around us. We can always tap into um, the renewal and rejuvenate our own hearts, our own spirits, and our own bodies. That is the lesson of the Wheel of Fortune, which has come up today. We are always in part of a cycle. Sometimes we're on the bottom of that cycle, sometimes we're on the top of that cycle, but the wheel keeps turning. Things begin, things end, all things happen in their time. And there's something to the hand of fate here. So um, look for openings, look for beginnings, look for those times that we can reinvigorate. Um, we have temperance, and temperance was in first. And this is a call to really check out how your life is feeling to you at this time. Are you feeling like you have balance? Are you feeling like things are spinning a little out of control? It's time to see how you are using your energies. Use some time this week to focus on what you need to breathe a little more life into and what you might need to rein in a little bit. Have you been pushing yourself really hard? Have you been working to the exclusion of relaxing, spending some time with friends, feeling joy? Please do turn that around and take some time to make sure you're feeling joy. Um, have you been escaping? Because the world is a very hard and weird and challenging place right now. Perhaps, you've been sleeping a whole lot or doing other things to try to escape. Substance use, sleeping, withdrawal, those sorts of habits that you need to go. They have their place in time, but maybe a little overindulging, and so it's time to re-engage, time to wake yourself up a little bit and see how you can poke out and re-engage the world in a way that feels safe and right for you. But look at what needs to be balanced. And, there's a time for grief, there's a time for joy, there's a time for being active, there's a time for rest. See how your life is right now and where you can spend a little more attention and where there may be a little too much attention. Okay. And then we have the sword, the page of swords also inversed. So this is a kitty that is active, right? The Page of Swords talks about how there's a lot of things going on, and there could be some challenges right at the horizon that you need to ponder, you need to figure out. But also, in that inverse kind of way, a little message not to jump at shadows. There's a lot of action that you, there's a lot of action that could happen. There may be even a lot of action that needs to happen, but choose your course wisely. You don't want to waste energy. You don't want to jump at shadows. That's just exhausting. And there's a lot to be done. So use good analysis. Think about what you're feeling called to do before you jump. And it's that sort of measured twice, cut once idea on taking action in your life. So, in essence, um, fate has a hand. Cycles are spinning. There are new openings beginning right now. That means also that some things are closing right now. Um, it's that door. It works both ways. Also, to take stock of where you're at and what you need to pay attention to balance, and look before you leap. There's a lot of action out there, a lot of things that are happening, kind of like, an urgent world, urgent world situations that become very personal as well as political, right? And so it's that call to action, but a call for careful consideration before you actually jump. All right, that's what I got. Thank you so much for joining us. Um, it is always wonderful to be with you, and we look forward to it every week.
Yes, thanks so much. And if you've got a minute, can you just move over there and hit that like button for us?
Oh, yeah.
I would like to connect with some of the people that I've been cut off from Facebook. I'm going to see if I can find a way to. I'll put this up on Twitter and maybe Instagram and or images from it and try to attract some attention that way.
Please do spread the good word of our show. Subscribe if you have not already. Please do hit the like button, and please do for this video, and please hit the notification bell so you'll know whenever we do something, which could be more than once a week. It could be.
Good to be with you.
Lovely to see you as always. You can find us in the Twitterverse. We are Bridge numeral 2 Utopia. You can also find myself, Ani_Raven, or
Good.
Press Watch Now.
Press watch _now. And our love goes out to you and to all the ships at sea.
Cheery bye.
Bye bye. I should have a